everyone, it's Maddie and V, and today we're going to be doing another read all day. So we've already picked our TBRs. I've got 4 books and I've picked 5, although I don't think I'm going to get to all of these, especially with the bells, because this is really big. But first up, I'm going to be reading Skylarks by Gregory, and I'm going to read Trials of Apollo by Riordan. I just finished Skylarks by Gregory and I absolutely loved it, and I'm giving it 5 stars. This is the story of Joni, who comes from a lower class family and they're struggling to survive. Then she meets Annabelle, who is from a completely different world. It has an FF romance and it's about the two of them coming together and learning about the struggles of being rich and of being poor. I adored the writing of this book. I thought it was gentle, but I was really invested in the characters' lives. Joni has a unique voice because she sounds so real. I think it's because you can really recognise yourself in Joni, even if you don't come from her background. She's really easy to relate to. The romance was adorable and beautifully paced. I loved it. I think it's a really powerful story. Joni gets involved in her local community with political activism, which makes this different as well and adds a wonderful layer. And I'm definitely going to be shouting about this book a lot more in the future because I thought it was wonderful. And I've just finished The Hidden Oracle by Riordan, which is the first book in a new series starring Apollo as a teenage boy getting his first quest and going back to Camp Half-Blood, and I loved this book so much. I've been dying to reread the Heroes of Olympus series, and this just brought me right back to those characters and why I love Riordan's writing. He's just so humorous in a not over-the-top way, and he creates such unique characters that I just can't choose a favourite. I really loved Apollo's characterisation, as we have met him in the Percy Jackson series before, but to see him shining in his own book has been really fun, and now I have to resist the urge to pick up the second book straight away because I really want to, but then I want to read other books as well. But Leo and Calypso have just been introduced as part of the second instalment of the quest, so I'm really looking forward to that. This is probably going to end up being my second favourite, as I loved all of the cameo references to the characters I've previously loved, and Will and Nico were in this one. I loved the diversity and how open Apollo was about his bisexuality throughout, so I'd really recommend it and gave it 5 stars. I've decided my next pick will be I've Lost My Way by Gayle Forman. This is only 250 pages and I could really do with a short book after Trials of Apollo, because even though that wasn't really long, it was so action-packed it felt like I was reading a really big tome. This also has 3 perspectives, so I'm really curious about how that's handled. I've decided to pick up Trial by Fire by Josephine Angelini. Even though the font is tiny and it's like 370 pages, it's been one that I've had on TBRs for the longest time, and it's about time I get round to it. So far today I've been averaging about 100 pages every hour, but if I could boost it to like 120 pages, that would be better. I'm halfway through I've Lost My Way right now, and I'm really loving it actually. It's quite slow paced, even though there's 3 characters, so you'd expect it to switch really quickly, but it's giving a lot of backstory to them, so I feel like I've known them for a lot longer than 130 pages. There are 2 boys and 1 girl in this story, and I'd say that I'm enjoying Freya's perspective a lot. I've got no real idea of how the plot will progress in this one. It definitely feels more like a character-based story, but I'm interested to find out, so let's keep going. B, how about your book? How are you getting on? I'm 180 pages out of 370, so just like 200 pages left to go. Yeah. I'd hoped to finish it by 3:30, but we ended up chatting to our friend Kibbs for a while, and that was way more fun than this book, so I'm happy that I did that. But I'm gonna try and speed read the rest of the way through this, because it is interesting. It's just very science heavy, which I wasn't expecting. That's odd. It just hasn't really explained what the world that Lily has transported into is like, really, or given much history. We know that her other version, Lillian, is like some evil witch queen, but the world building isn't that great apart from like explaining what she is as a crucible. Does it make you want to watch more Charmed? Yeah, it does make me want to watch more Charmed, but they're not witches in that sense. That's what I mean about the science. It's more of like a chemical-based thing. This is the first book in a trilogy, and I do want to continue on with the series from what I've read so far. So I just finished I've Lost My Way, and it's another 5-star read. Read all days must be really lucky finding books that I love. In the end, I really connected with every single one of these perspectives. I loved how they got a full arc as well, even though it was 250 pages. It was divided really well between them. They all let go of the things they were holding on to that were toxic and found something in their friendship. It's probably my favourite 24-hour book that I've read, but it does feel quite similar to The Sun Is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon, so if you loved that book, then you'll definitely like this one too. So speed speed hasn't really been my forte this read all day because both books I've really loved and so read slower than I would, and that's definitely a good thing. I want to find books I love. So next I'm going to read The Bells by Dhonielle Clayton, and I'm not going to let the fact that it's quite a brick scare me off. I just finished Trial by Fire, and as I was saying earlier, the magic system is really unique because it's based on science. I think I got a little confused because I was reading the book so quickly, and because the characters are layered and have doubles in the two worlds we experience in this, I got a little bit confused as to Lillian's motivations the entire time, but I'm excited to see how things escalate. So I think by the end there still wasn't enough world building for me, but this is a trilogy, so there's space for improvement. I think I'm going to give it 3 stars for now because that tends to be what I do with all first books in series, so my rating has the space to improve along with the books. My choices are between The Murder Complex and Girl Out of Water, which couldn't be more different in terms of tone, but I have a feeling I'm going to finish them roughly at the same speed, so I'm not sure whether I'm in the mood to continue a contemporary thing or to go for this dystopian story. I feel like the dystopian makes most sense after just finishing Trial by Fire. In an ideal world, I'd finish both of these today, but it looks like I might only be finishing one, so it might be best to go with The Murder Complex because I know Maddie wants to read that one as well, so it would be good if I could get it off my TBR. So last night I ended up finishing The Bells. It's 430 pages, and I'd say I'm only going to give it 3 stars because in the end it didn't make that much of an impression on me. I thought that it was overly descriptive, and I should have seen that coming, seeing as this is all about girls who make the world beautiful. But it was quite slow paced and repetitive as the Bells were asked to do the same tasks. I really did enjoy the royal plot and the kind of Sleeping Beauty fairy tale woven into this, but it really wasn't maximised on through most of this story and only became really prominent in the last 50 pages. I didn't really connect with Camellia as a character, especially towards the beginning when she just felt really selfish. When she showed herself as someone that couldn't be controlled even by royalty, then I started to root for her a little bit. I really didn't like the romance in this. It's one of those where they keep having these serendipitous meetings in libraries or in shops, and they only have a very, very small conversation, so at the end when they're declaring love for each other I was kind of like, well, that came out of nowhere. I really liked the bond between the sisters though. Even though the Bells were split up into different sections of their kingdom or whatever, they were all still communicating, which I enjoyed, and I hope as the series goes on we get to connect with more of the Bells rather than just Camellia, as Adol seemed to have the most exciting plotline going on, and I probably would have preferred if the story was from her perspective. Overall, I definitely recommend this if you liked The Jewel by Amy Ewing, because that had a lot of similarities with this one, especially the way the world is built. But I know that there have been a few sensitivity issues with this book, so I'll leave a link to the Goodreads if you want to scroll through the reviews and see what people are saying about it. And then finally, I read 100 Pages of Hope by Rianne Ivory in the evening. We have an event coming up with her in Birmingham on the 25th of May, and so I'm prepping for that for reading the books that we've got by those authors. It just feels really slice of life, and those are some of my favourite kinds of contemporary books, but I'm only 100 pages in, so you can look for my wrap-up of this book in one of our spring wrap-ups. Last night I finished The Murder Complex by Lindsay Cummings. This was 400 pages, but I absolutely zipped through it. It's about Meadow and Zephyr, and they live in a world riddled with overpopulation, meaning that death is rife in their city and they are practiced killers. I did enjoy the world and like everything about this story, all the elements were there, but I feel like the details were lacking. Everything felt slightly underdeveloped, from the world to the characters to the relationships, that I really enjoyed the ride and I could fill in a lot of it myself, but even though it was fast paced, I wanted it to slow down. Since this is only a duology, however, I will probably buy the sequel when I can, and I'm so excited to meet Lindsay at Yalk this year. And then because I was so quick to finish that, I picked up Girl Out of Water by Luurstema, and I got 200 pages through, which I then finished the day after. It's about a girl called Lou, and she's an avid swimmer, and at the beginning it's the competition that will make or break her swimming career, and unfortunately she loses, and after that she's confused at what to do with her life next. I thought the humour was right on point for me. It was just the right amount of naturally funny but then also forced humour that you laugh at anyway. I thought it came off quite young even though the character's meant to be 15, but I think that's just the curse of a humorous voice like this. I did love the cast of characters, and there's a sequel coming out in June this year which I will definitely be reading because I really enjoyed the story. So much was going on, it reminded me of Geek Girl in the best possible way. The only thing I had a problem with was Lu's body image. Because she's a swimmer, she is grown up tall with no real curves, and her period hasn't started, which is a big source of fuss for her. And she's also quite muscly and lean, and she's quite derogatory about it and doesn't see it as a feminine body because she hasn't got curves, which I thought was just really problematic. I was just really upset that it was sending a message that if you didn't have curves you were unfeminine. But putting that aside, it was still really fun, so I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. So that's everything we read for the second read all day of May. I managed to read the exact same number of pages as last week, so hopefully next time we do this I'll be able to push myself further. And I read 1,300 pages, which I think is 200 pages more than what I read last time, but these books were very quick to fly through, so I think I made some perfect choices. Thank you everyone so much for watching. Don't forget we post bookish videos every Friday and Sunday. We're active on social media on Twitter and Instagram @MarianB, and those links are always in the description. Subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you next time.